All right, so you guys have really outdone yourselves this time, sending us this pile of articles about Trump's sentencing in the hush money case
Yeah.
and what it all means for his second term in office. I
Yeah.
mean, this is really one for the history books, folks, a deep dive into
Absolutely.
uncharted territory. To just quickly get everyone up to speed,
Okay.
Trump was convicted back in May 2024
Right.
on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records,
Yeah.
all tied back to those hush money payments made during the 2016 campaign.
Yeah.
Then fast forward to January 10th, 2025.
Right.
He's being sentenced.
Right.
But here's the real kicker.
Mm-hmm.
He's already the president-elect.
It's a real mind bender, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, on the surface, falsifying business records sounds pretty mundane.
Yeah.
But you dig a little deeper and you realize in this case it means
Right.
Trump was convicted of basically covering up an affair to sway the 2016 election.
Yeah.
And now he's heading back to the Oval Office with that whole mess hanging over him.
Yeah. It's really something.
Yeah.
So walk us through this sentencing.
Sure.
The articles mention something called an unconditional discharge.
Okay.
What does that even mean?
Unconditional discharge is essentially the court saying, look, we find you guilty. This is going on your permanent record, but we're not going to hit you with any additional penalties.
Okay.
So no jail time, no fines, no community service.
Right.
In this instance, Judge Juan Merchan over in Manhattan decided that given Trump's status as president-elect, further punishment just wasn't necessary.
So the case is closed, but the conviction still stands.
Right.
But if there's no real punishment, is it just symbolic?
It's certainly symbolic, but
Yeah.
the symbolism is powerful.
Right.
You know, think about it. This is the first time ever
Right.
that a former and now current president has a felony conviction.
Mhm.
The reactions have been strong, to say the least.
Yeah, the articles you sent definitely highlight that.
For sure.
Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, a Republican,
Yes.
he didn't mince words, did he?
No, he did not.
He called the whole thing a politically motivated witch hunt
Mm-hmm.
and even went so far as to call the prosecution team deranged.
Yeah.
Those are some pretty strong words.
Johnson's statement really reflects the deep partisan divide that we're seeing play out.
Mhm.
To him and to many others, this whole case just smells like political maneuvering. It's worth noting that just falsifying business records on its own
Yeah.
might not usually lead to such a harsh sentence.
Right. But it's the context here tied to these allegations of election interference that makes it so explosive.
Exactly.
So this was about more than just some bookkeeping errors.
Right.
What about the prosecution's response to the sentencing? To this whole idea of it being a witch hunt.
Interestingly enough, the prosecutors actually supported the no penalty sentence.
Oh, wow.
Their argument was that with Trump as president-elect, it was really the most practical solution.
Okay.
However, they did push back hard against Trump's attacks on the legal system that he made throughout the trial. They argued that this kind of rhetoric really undermines public trust in the justice system.
Okay, so we've got these two completely opposing viewpoints.
Yeah.
Witch hunt versus upholding the law.
Exactly.
And where does Trump himself land in all this?
Well, in typical Trump fashion, he took to his social media platform,
Right.
Truth Social, which he founded, after getting banned from Twitter,
Yes.
to denounce the sentencing as a despicable charade and to vow that he'd appeal it.
So everyone's dug into their positions.
Yeah.
But let's move beyond this immediate drama.
Okay.
What are the real-world implications of this conviction for Trump as he heads back to the White House?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
The conviction, even without jail time, actually triggers some pretty surprising and significant consequences.
Okay, lay it on me.
Well, first off, let's talk about voting rights.
Okay.
In a lot of states, felons lose their right to vote, but Florida, where Trump is registered, has more lenient rules. That's why he was still able to run for president and why he can still vote despite this felony conviction.
So he can still vote, which is obviously pretty significant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Considering he's about to be sworn in.
Yeah.
What else?
Here's a big one.
Yeah.
Gun ownership.
Okay.
Federal law prohibits felons from owning guns.
Oh, wow.
So even though he's the president, Trump can't legally have a firearm.
Wow, that's a huge restriction, especially for someone who's often made a big show of supporting Second Amendment rights.
Yep.
And considering his security detail, it brings up all sorts of logistical and legal questions.
Yeah, for sure.
What other consequences come with this conviction?
He'll also have to submit a DNA sample to the New York State Crime Data Bank. which is standard procedure for anyone convicted of a felony in the state.
Right.
But it's a pretty stark reminder of his criminal record, even if he isn't behind bars.
So even though there's no jail time, the consequences are very real.
Definitely.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
This is just the beginning. The broader implications
Yeah.
of a convicted felon returning to the White House, those are much more complex and far-reaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, what's really wild here is that there's no precedent for this.
Right.
We're in completely uncharted legal waters with a convicted felon as president.
Yeah, it's like we've wandered into a constitutional law final exam or something.
Exactly.
I mean, can he even pardon himself for this conviction?
Mm.
And would that even apply to a state-level crime?
That's the million-dollar question, and legal scholars are going back and forth on it.
Right.
Some argue that presidential pardons are only for federal offenses, not state ones. So in theory, Trump couldn't pardon himself in this specific case.
Okay.
But the thing is, it's never been tested before.
Yeah.
So who knows? We're truly in uncharted territory here.
Talk about a constitutional crisis waiting to happen.
Uh-huh.
But let's take a step back for a moment.
Okay.
What does this whole saga tell us about the American public and our justice system?
Right.
I mean, Trump still won the election despite this conviction.
That's what's so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems like the conviction just didn't sway enough voters to stop him from getting a second term.
Yeah.
And this really makes you question the weight of a felony conviction, especially when it comes to the highest office in the country.
It makes you wonder if there's a disconnect between legal accountability and what the public thinks.
Absolutely. It challenges a lot of our assumptions about how the law, public opinion, and political power all interact in America.
Yeah.
It's like we're seeing our democratic system get a real-time stress test.
So we're in this crazy situation with a convicted president-elect and more questions than answers.
Yeah.
What does this all mean for the future of American politics?
That's the question that keeps me up at night. You know, here we have a candidate who a jury of his peers found guilty of a crime.
Right.
And it didn't derail his political goals at all.
Yeah.
It makes you think hard about where our democracy stands right now.
Yeah. My head's spinning with all the potential ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
What if more charges come up while he's in office?
Right.
Could he be removed?
That adds another layer of complexity, for sure.
Yeah.
The Constitution does lay out a process for impeachment and removal.
Right.
But it's never been used in a situation like this.
Right.
We are in truly uncharted territory here.
Wow.
The legal and political precedents are murky at best.
It's going to be a wild ride, that's for sure.
No doubt.
And not just for us political junkies either.
This isn't just some abstract legal drama.
Right.
What happens in the White House impacts everyone.
Yeah.
It affects our daily lives, our communities, our entire country.
It's a good reminder that we all have a stake in how American democracy plays out.
It's not just about Trump. It's about the health and strength of our institutions as a whole.
It really does feel like we're in some kind of political thriller, right?
Yeah, kind
To
of.
start with what seems like a pretty open and shut sentencing, and before you know it, you're down this rabbit hole of constitutional questions and all these societal anxieties.
Definitely a case study in the unexpected,
Yeah.
and a real reminder of how even the most well-established systems can be tested in ways we never saw coming.
It's a good reminder that American democracy isn't this fixed thing.
Right.
It's always changing, sometimes in ways that are messy and uncomfortable, but it's also resilient, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Our system of checks and balances, the separation of powers, the rule of law,
Right.
these are all designed to handle challenges and adapt to new situations.
Yeah.
This whole Trump situation is definitely a stress test.
Right.
But it's also a chance to really double down on our commitment to
Yeah.
those core democratic principles.
You know, as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I keep thinking about what this all means for the average person listening to this.
Sure.
What are the big takeaways here?
Yeah.
Why should they even care about all this Trump drama?
I think the most important takeaway is that we're all active participants in this giant experiment we call American democracy.
Right.
It's not something you just watch from the sidelines.
Yeah.
What goes down at the highest levels of government
Yeah.
has a direct impact on our lives,
Right.
on our communities, on our future.
It's easy to feel powerless when you're dealing with these big, complicated issues.
Sure.
But we're not powerless, are we?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Our voices do matter. Staying informed, talking about these issues with your friends and family,
Right.
holding our elected officials accountable.
Yes.
These are all acts of citizenship that can really shape the direction of our country.
It's a call to action, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
This isn't just about Trump.
Right.
It's about the kind of future we want to create.
Yeah.
For ourselves and for generations to come.
Well said.
Yeah.
We can't afford to just sit back and watch.
Right.
We have to be actively involved in shaping the future of our democracy.
So, listeners, that wraps up our deep dive
Okay.
into Trump's sentencing and all the things it means.
Mm-hmm.
We've looked at the legal ins and outs, the political fallout, and the bigger questions this all raises about American democracy itself.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we did.
I'm sure you all have a lot to think about.
I know I do.
But before we sign off,
Okay.
we want to leave you with one last thought to chew on.
A little something to keep those brain gears turning.
Right. So now that Trump's back in the White House,
Yeah.
with a felony conviction still on his record,
Ah,
what does this tell us about where American politics is headed?
right.
What does it say about us as a nation?
Hmm.
We'll let you wrestle with that one.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next time for another exciting look into the issues that matter most.